Phil Conrad for Computer Science 156, the team01 project in winter 22. We have arrived at the part where we will be working on steps 2.5 and 2.6, creating our controller and tests for our controller. So to remind you, in our previous video, we created a joke query service and tests for the joke query service. The joke query service goes out to this endpoint, which, when we test it out, every time we go to that endpoint, we get a new joke. So this one is: a grocery store cashier asked if I would like my milk in a bag. I told her, no thanks, the carton works fine. All right, so every time we call the joke controller, which we don't have yet, it should call the getJSON function, which will go out, get a joke, return it, and then display that as the result. So what we need to do is, I think our college subreddit controller is a good example because its getJSON method doesn't take any parameters, and ours is not going to take any parameters either. So what I'm going to do is come under controllers, and I'm going to make a new file, and I'm going to call this joke controller.java, and I'll go to college subreddits controller, do a copy and a paste, and paste this in, change the name to joke controller. Now let's go through here, API description. This is going to be jokes from, and I'll go back to the root of this website is where it has all the information about the API. So I'm going to copy that URL and put that in. So joke from here, and this will be API/jokes. And then instead of a college subreddit query service, we will have our joke query service. And the variable name I'll use is just the same as the name of the class, just lowercase, joke query service. That's a fairly common convention. Now the wavy line means that it doesn't know about this type, and that's because the import I have up here for services is still doing the college subreddit query service, but I'll make this say joke query service instead, and that will get rid of that wavy line. And then the same here, we want the variable to be joke query service. And also, actually here, value, get a, we should say get a joke in safe mode, non-offensive. We could even say get an English language joke, because this service will give us jokes in other languages as well if we were to use a different URL. All right, so I think that should do it. Now, as for the test, if I go down and look at my college subreddit controller test, I can take that and I'll make a new file here, which is joke controller test.java, and I'll paste a copy of my other file. So this is going to be MVC test, college subreddits controller. No, this will be our joke controller. And we give it that. The dot class here means that we are passing an object that represents that class to this web MVC test. This is a Spring Boot annotation that is used in particular for setting up tests for controllers. It allows us to test a particular controller without having to set up the entire web application. I'm going to want to change the name of this to joke controller tests. So we'll do joke controller tests. And I think I called that test singular. It could be singular or plural, but we want to be consistent. All of these say tests, and this says, so we'll make this one say tests as well. We're not going to want a college subreddit query service as our mock bean. We're going to want a joke query service as our mock bean. And we'll call this mock joke query service. Now, you may wonder, what is a mock bean? Well, a mock bean, a bean is a Java object that has a certain interface. That's a sort of a more detailed topic for another time, but I'll just briefly mention that a bean is a Java object that has a constructor that takes no parameters and getters and setters for all of its private data members. It has a few other things too, but mostly it's that, right? That's pretty much it. That's when you say Java bean, that's what you're talking about. So in this case, a mock bean, we're going to make a mock joke query service because we're not going to use the real one. The real one would actually send stuff out on the web and get us back a joke. And we're not testing that. That's somebody else's job to test. What we're testing is the code that we wrote. And in this case, we're testing the controller. So we're going to use a fake result here, a fake JSON result. And when the mock joke query service, when we call the get JSON on it, we're going to return our fake JSON result. That allows us to basically run the test with predictable output because the real joke query service gives us a different joke every time. So it's hard to make any guarantees about what the return value would be. But our fake joke query service allows us to test just the controller and not also the joke query service. That one is tested separately. So now joke query service has the wavy line because, again, up here, we are importing college Reddit query service, public holiday query service. We don't really need either of those. What we need is our joke query service. And then you can see that that wavy line means this isn't even used anywhere. This argument matchers isn't used anywhere. That one's not used anywhere, so we'll get rid of all those. Now we'll come down here, and let's see, what do we have? We have when the mock joke query service, get JSON, return fake JSON result. That looks good. This URL is not the URL we want. We want API. Is it joke or jokes? We need to look back at our controller. Our controller for joke, the joke controller is API jokes with an S. So in our joke controller test, we will do jokes with an S, and we'll do /get. Why get? Because in our joke query service, nope, not our joke query service, our joke controller, we're implementing a mapping at /get. So we will go back to our and I'm going to turn off those Slack notifications because they will be a little bit annoying. So let's pause notifications for 30 minutes so I can continue making videos. And let's see, we are down in the joke controller tests. This is joke controller tests. We want to do API jokes get. And we're going to get that URL. We're going to assert that the content type is application JSON, expect that the status is okay, and then we're going to return the value. The response that we get back, we're going to get that response string and assert that it's the same as the fake JSON result that we were expecting. And that's our test. All right, well, let's go ahead and run Maven test. And we remember from before that we can just say -d test equals and run just a single test. So joke controller tests. And that will run just our one test. And that'll be a little bit faster. So we'll see if we have any compiler errors or if the test works the first time. And test works. Now, we didn't see the test fail. So let's go back to our joke controller. And this joke controller is returning response entity.ok body result. Let's comment that out for a moment. And instead of that, let's return instead of result, let's return bad result as a string. And our test should fail because now we're not returning what we're expecting. So let's make sure that that happens. You always want to see your test fail at least once, even if you have to do it by, forcing a bad value, because otherwise how can you trust the test? Maybe the test is not written correctly and it always passes. Okay, good. We got a failure. And it says expected fake result, but was bad result. All right, so now let's put in the real code again. And run the test one more time. And this time we'll run the entire test suite. And if it's green, we're ready to do a commit. So this will run through for a moment, and I will pause the video while that all runs through all the way. Find the control. All right, that didn't take long. 11 tests run, 0 failures. We're in good shape. So get status. I see that I've got my joke controller test, my joke query service, my joke query service tests. They're all green. So I do a, actually before I do the commit. We've done the tests, but let's also do Maven Spring Boot run and see if the thing actually works. If the thing actually works, I should be able to go to the Swagger endpoint, see my joke controller, and then see that I'm getting back a new joke every time. All right, so it started the application. I should now be able to go to localhost 8080. So let's go to localhost 8080. And there's my Swagger UI endpoint. There's my joke controller, jokes from, and it has the documentation. If I go to get and do try it out and hit execute, why was the mushroom always invited to parties? Because he's a fun guy. All right, good. Let's execute again. Schrodinger's cat walks into a bar and doesn't. Well, there you go. That's just gold right there, huh? All right, so you can see that this is working. So we are now ready to do a get status. We're going to do a get add dot. We're going to do another get status to make sure we got what we wanted. And we'll do a get commit -m. Notice that I'm still on my branch, fill jokes, PC, implement joke, controller, service, and tests. Get push origin, and not main, but get push origin and the name of my branch, which is fill jokes. Once I do that, I'm now ready to make a pull request. So I'm going to type open, and then I'm going to open this URL right here. That open, and that only works on Mac, but you could also just take that URL and copy paste it into a browser. And my pull request, oops, here I am. So, overview. In a sentence or two, provide an overview of how this pull request updates the main branch. In this PR, we implement a joke service and a joke controller using the API from this site. And then I'll go grab that API and put it in to our pull request. Issues addressed. I don't think we need to actually any of this at the moment. We can just keep that. We can just keep it like this for now. That's good enough. At a later stage in the course, we'll talk about more of the detail of making a pull request, including, for example, a screenshot. Actually, in this case, let me go at least do this. We can make a screenshot by going to this joke controller and just doing a quick screenshot like this. And then I can just paste that in, and through the magic of GitHub, it will automatically upload that. And if I click preview, you can see there's a screenshot. So it's very easy to put screenshots into your pull request. So I encourage you to do it. Create pull request, and there it is. Okay, so that was steps 2.5 and 2.6 of Team 01, where we work on the controller and the controller test. I hope that was helpful. And then we also covered doing the pull request. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, you can, on the Slack, use the Help Team 01 channel. Thanks, bye-bye.